Right. Let's have a look. Welcome to the 6th Studio Update, the show where I update you on AI and automation projects from myself and end-to-end's global community. I'm Max, the original Flowgrammer. We've got an awesome episode today, so stick around for some laughs. You may even learn something, though no promises. In this week's episode, I've got an update on my Building AI Agents tutorial series, a quick check-in on my first explorations fine-tuning little Paquito LLM models, and I kicked off a project with end-to-end support team to help them automate some stuff with AI, so we got a quick peek at that as well. I also had a lovely chat with the venerable Jim Lee, who was a guest on our first episode. And he goes into a pretty cool pattern he showed that I think is gonna be powerful for anyone that is handing off AI solutions to other people and doesn't wanna get pinged every time there's a small tweak. Trust me, it's awesome. All right, as usual, let's kick things off with some studio project updates. Part 3 of my Building AI Agents tutorial series is finally out. It focuses on prompt engineering specifically for AI agents. It's designed with beginners in mind, but unless you're a prompt engineering expert, I'm sure you'll learn a thing or two. So definitely do go check that out and follow the link. Now, there's a lot of discourse right now in the AI influencer circles with salacious headlines like, you never need to prompt engineer ever again, and all these AI tools that kind of help you with prompt engineering. Yes, they're helpful. Yes, I use them, but I highly recommend that you learn what the hell you're doing there so you can audit the suggestions given by your AI agent, because AIs are very confident in their results. They're usually instructed to be helpful, and you could be piping in a hot steaming pile of BS into your AI agent without knowing. So educate yourself, watch the video, and do me a favor after you watch it, share it with someone. Maybe you got a plumber friend who's dealing with invoice nightmares. So yeah, check that one out, and please do give me some feedback. I don't think it's perfect, but it was, again, it's the longest tutorial I've ever made, and I think I did a pretty good job of balancing depth and actually teaching you some stuff. I agreed with Angel that he's gonna update us every 2 weeks to give him more time to crack on. So no pressure, Angel.
A few moments later.
As mentioned last week, the next thing we're going to be picking up is looking at fine-tuning. So I'm seeing all these folks talking about fine-tuning tiny little Paquito models and having perform super well on specific tasks. To explore that, I'm trying to fine-tune a 3B model that can write Gmail drafts for me. So far, what I've done is I've ingested a bunch of emails from myself and kind of created a bit of a pipeline to do that. I've been able to turn it into the right format that I need. I also have it generating some synthetic examples. Basically, I'm like 80–90% done on having my ingest pipeline for Gmail. So the next step is to figure out how to fine tune a model. Now, I'm trying to find some experts on this because I think collaborating is definitely going to be a bit more fun. So if you are a fine tuning expert, you got a bit of free time on your hands and you'd like to get some eyeballs on whatever you're doing, hit me up because I'd love to learn and I'd love to basically take your expertise and dumb it down for everyone else so they don't have to learn it, unless they want to, of course. So yeah, now that the Building AI Agents series is shipped, or at least the first 3 parts are shipped, I'll focus on that next, collect some feedback on the Building AI Agent series, and then make a sneaky part 4. I also got to meet with end-to-end support team. So they basically did some thinking on some problems that they'd like to solve with automation, and they've conscripted your friendly neighborhood Flowgrammer, that's me, to help them with that. So we jumped on a discovery call this week and basically structured how we're gonna approach this. Now, I recorded the meeting and cut it down because I think it's gonna be an interesting thing to watch if you're thinking, okay, it's 2025, I wanna add AI to my business processes, but like, how do I do that? How do I start thinking about that? How do I meet with the people that have the problem, perhaps discover what they need, and get a game plan and get going? So check this out. Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey, Max.
Hey,
So the support team has joined me today because we're going to have a look at some of the pain points that they have in their day-to-day work helping the end-to-end community, and we're going to help them automate and use end-to-end to solve the problems of end-to-end. How does that sound?
Awesome.
amazing.
Sweet. Well, Ria was kind enough to put together a doc going over some of the stuff that you guys kind of have on your horizon. Ria, would you mind walking us through this?
Yes, we use a ticket system called Zamat. And this is also the integration that we will be needing in our workflow. We get support emails, and according to the different content that they have, we want to categorize them and we want to use AI for that.
So we've got all these requests coming in from users. They're coming into Zamad, and then you guys are tagging those tickets with like some tag taxonomy that you have to kind of make sense of all that and organize it. And of what your what you're looking at automating. Is that right?
Yes. So at the moment, this is done manually. Like we categorize according to the content. Is it maybe like a billing related issue? Is it a bug? And then we apply labels, which also helps us for a statistical purpose, because at the end of the day, we want to know, and the product team also wants to know what's the topics that users are messaging us about. What's our pain points? Where's the impact? But another use case is also categorizing for triage in order to determine which priorities we have to work through the tickets. It can be done, enterprise users, the severity of the issue that they're reporting.
Gotcha. So if someone's like instances down and they're on an enterprise plan, obviously that's super critical, right? We got to like react to that quickly. Makes a lot of sense. Sounds like classification is a pretty good use case for AI. Are there any other ideas or problems, or you kind of want to focus on this tagging issue? Because I guess that affects every ticket, right?
It affects every ticket, and at the moment, because we're just starting out to get more AI into our processes, it seems to be like the most simple to start off, because at some point, of course, we want to enhance this by using AI, like a full-fledged AI bot that responds to the users as well with potential solutions or references to fix the issue. So this is just the beginning.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, thinking about this, how long would you say the tagging process takes you yourself per ticket?
Sometimes almost half a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's also iterative. So as the ticket maybe grows in replies, there may be other tags because the content changes.
And I imagine that as the team grows, as the number of tags grows, the rate of human error could also increase there, right? The time to do it, the time that someone new doesn't know about some new tag or something, right?
Exactly. Sometimes when we introduce new tags, obviously we don't go back in time and re-tag some older emails. And the other one is that sometimes you just don't tag at all because you forget that there's a tag for it. But it would be valuable to include that in our records of tags for these
Hmm.
emails.
And then how many tags do we have total right now? And how many do we expect to have in like, I don't know, 6 months?
Oh my God, I think it's maybe like 40 around like
Okay.
that.
Okay. Sounds good.
And it shouldn't really be growing that much, but it depends on how granular we want to be in our tracking.
So, in terms of scoping this down, I think what we could try at first, we could potentially use two different frontier models. We run it through, an advanced GPT model and through an advanced Anthropic model. Make sure they have the same result. And if not, it gets assigned to a human to do, for example. But then if both models say, yes, it's these three tags, maybe that could be our definition of confidence, of high confidence, and then to automatically apply the tag right now. Because I guess when thinking about how good the solution has to be, right? Because humans have error rates, systems have error rates. The more you work on a system, the more you can reduce the error rate. What's the worst case scenario if something gets the incorrect tags?
At the moment, the worst case scenario might be not including it in our statistics. So the worst case scenario is not, it doesn't really have like a big impact if we don't get the tags right. The bigger impact would be further down the line if the AI replies to the user some
Yeah.
rubbish.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think no matter what we do, we will have to be tracking, even if it's not in Zamad, but some of the ones that did get auto tagged, right? I think the next thing to try is a spike. So if we say, look, let's take a couple hours, let's try a simple, naive approach, and let's see how good that approach is to inform whether we need to do something more complex. What I would try to do, we probably want to use an open source model, right? Because we're piping in like PII data. So we got a self-hosted model. And with self-hosted models, they have quite a lot of context window. What I would try first is taking some examples from Zamad, so multi-shot prompting, and see if a decent sort of system message with those examples is enough to categorize on that system. Because I think the things that we'll need more specific examples of is the more niche tags. I think the LLM today, if we needed to have a classification system that defines if it's billing or anything else it's not billing, like it could probably do that already without any examples today, but maybe less so for some more specific stuff. I think that's really going to depend on how many specific examples we have, how similar those tags are. But that's what I would try first. That could be a couple hours or less. and it's working and it's done and we ship it and we're happy. If that doesn't work, we could then look at fine-tuning models, or even if it's working, fine-tuning models to have a more performant, efficient system to show people what you would do if, your ticket volume's 10x this. Because then I'm fairly confident with some of the research I've been doing that we could take a small model, maybe a 7B or a 3B model. We create training data from your existing tickets. I imagine we have over 200 tickets that have like correct tags at this point.
We get 200 tickets a week or something like this. So
But yeah, I think that's a good approach. We'll try the simple version first. And then if we need to do the fine tuning example, sounds we got like hundreds, thousands of examples. We know a pretty good ETL tool that can clean up those examples and prepare the training data. Hint, hint, it's end to end. I see this. This could be famous last words, but I see this as potentially like an S, maybe M sized ticket. Maybe it's XS, but this sounds like something we could get done and build, and help the team out pretty quickly.
yeah, I think so too. I think my biggest uncertainties are right now how to self-host the model. Where like, yeah, what's your experience with that?
So I don't have so much self-hosting experience. I have experienced it a little bit with Olama. So what I would say when we're building this out, we should test just running a model locally. So I think step one is get it working locally with a model, because
Mhm.
if we can get it run on my MacBook, we can have a chat with the engineering team. If we could show this is working and this would be saving X hours if it was deployed, it's going to be a lot easier in our organization to get that deployed. Ria, could you prepare for me some of the example data from Zamad? And I would say there, Ria, if you think there's other metadata that could also be useful for categorization, for example, if the email has a subject, if we already know if the user's on cloud or not, please add that in as well, because that could be very helpful for the example or could be very helpful for the fine tuning set as well. And then specifically which tickets you pick. The guidance is that obviously your examples should be like representative of what you're going to see. Maybe the easiest way to do that is make sure that there's at least a couple examples for each tag that we have in the system.
Nice. Did you mean to include like bad examples as well, like how not to do it?
So far, I don't think we need anti-examples. So
Yeah.
far, just examples have helped. Honestly, if we have all these examples and I'm able to pipe in 20, 30 examples in context and that's not working reliably, let's go the fine-tuning route. Cool.
Okay, great.
Sweet. So since we've got your boss here, how does that sound?
It sounds amazing.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, if we
Awesome.
have this data, it'll be amazing.
Again, it could be famous last words. I'm an optimist, so I often go like, "Oh, this is going to be super easy," and then reality hits. Once you've gotten that data to me, I'll schedule a build session, and then we'll jump on the phone and have a look at it and go from there.
Oh, great. I would be curious which model you choose.
I would also be curious. I have no
Yeah.
idea right now. I'm really going to try with some of these smaller models because for classification, some of these smaller models
Mm.
still have good context windows. Let's see. I'll probably try Llama, some flavor. And then I'm going to see sometimes there's more niche models that aren't as popular, but they'll specifically be trained for classification. I'll have a look, but I'll share those learnings.
I'm so happy that you're doing this on your computer because I think I only have like 8 GB. So
You know what's cool though? Some of these very small models, like 1B and stuff, can run on HEP.
A few moments later.
Thanks so much. Super excited to get going on this project. I'll see you soon. Bye.
see you, Max.
An awkward pause. So as a quick update, I already heard from Ria. She's making good progress on getting that data set all prepared. We're just figuring out exactly what metadata we should get and stuff. So once she sent that to me, I got to stand up a model locally because again, that data's rife with personally identifiable information. So I hope that's evidence that NNN cares about your privacy and about not being fined massively by the German government. All right, let's keep things rolling. Next up, I had a chance to meet with the venerable Jim Lee. Some of you might know him from episode 1. Jim's super smart guy. He showed me a pattern that he figured out that it's a bit hard to explain, but basically he's exploiting the description metadata available in a lot of sheets-like products like Baserow and NoCodeDB, and using that description in the system prompts for his AI steps so they're dynamic. So the end user can just modify that in Baserow, let's say, and then it updates their AI workflow. I'm not doing a great job of explaining it, so yeah, just watch this. Hey Jim, how's it going?
Hey, Max. I'm good. Yourself?
Doing very well. Happy New Year to you, mate.
Yeah, the 2025.
That's right. So for the next couple months, I'm going to be misspelling all my dates. Jim, what have you been up to since our last call?
Yeah, over the last few months, just kind of been working with NNN and AI mostly.
Very cool. Is that for client work or how have you
Yeah,
been working with
definitely
it?
for client, but also kind of exploring some of the new last minute releases last year, like Gemini 2.
Very cool. So for anyone who's not familiar with Jim's work, Jim creates a bunch of really awesome workflow templates in the NNN community, and we had him on the show previously. But for everyone else, Jim, could you give a quick introduction?
Yeah. So I'm a freelance developer, started early last year, and I've been working exclusively with NHN for all my AI workflows, building a lot of ETL solutions, taking in invoices and bank statements mostly.
Very cool. Now, Jim has a solution that he wants to show us today. It's more of a pattern that you can apply to various different use cases. And the reason it's super interesting to me is, well, firstly, it's not an AI agent. So yes, you can have create value with AI without agentic solutions. And I think Jim was showing it to me before the call, and it's something that allows you as the developer to give your end user more control. On that note, Jim, would you mind showing us what you've been working on?
Absolutely, my pleasure. Hey everyone, most of last year when we were sort of working on the AI extraction workflows, we started to realize it was very static. So what I mean by this is, take this example, right? I think this spreadsheet, for example, I'm using Baserow, and in there we can see there's 4 columns: file, full name, address, and email. If I click on the CV, this is a test CV. Usually someone asks us to build a workflow to pull out certain attributes and data from the document. The problem being is that these are usually static, defined up front. And if we show you a quick example workflow here, so this workflow here is how we would do it is we would sort of have a webhook to run this, and we would pull the rows that need to be filled. We would download the file attached to that row, extract the data from that CV, and then use the information extractor. And the information extractor takes the text from our PDF and then pulls the columns we can use. Now, immediately, if I run this by double clicking this guy, we can see it's done just that. So it's pulled the name, and then what we've done is we've mapped it to update our base role. Fantastic. Now you immediately see the problem with this is that if someone adds another column, this for now, we would need to go back into our information extractor and add the attribute here.
I guess you're also going to have then all those previous records, right, that don't have that backfilled as well by default, right?
Exactly.
Mhm.
So we have a sort of schema syncing problem, but also a roles syncing problem. And you can see if you were to run this manually, it would be no problem. But if you want to automate, it's kind of a nightmare because you end up being on the hook as a developer of the workflow. You end up being on hook on maintaining this template and being pinged every time that someone wants to change something or redefine the criteria or add more fields, columns.
So wait, Jim, you're telling me that you don't like to be pinged to change schemas from workflows. Is that correct? Just on camera for the record.
Definitely.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, good to know.
So here in this scenario, all the power, all the sort of responsibility is on the developer. Now, what I've been working in the last few months is what if we could turn that around, or complete 180 and put the sort of the prompting, the definition of the schema in the hands of the user instead. And this is where we explored a dynamic column prompts. So in this workflow, we have switched away from defining structured output in our LLM nodes, and we've moved them into Baserow. How we do that? If I switch to the Baserow now and with this example, I have the same setup, but you notice there's kind of minimal rows. In this field, I've defined the attribute name. And in this description is where I've chosen to land the prompt. So here we can see full name of candidate prefix. And what I've also done is, as Basehooks allows sort of very granular webhooks, I've added here is once a row is created or updated, or a field is created or updated, it runs my dynamic column prompts template. What does that do?
Gotcha. So Jim, is it basically when you change the column schema or when you add a row, it's basically pulling that schema live before it gets to the extraction step. And it's using that description written by the end user here in Baserow to basically tell the LLM like, look, here's the name of the thing to extract, but here's what you're looking for. Is that right?
Exactly. So of the schema, the attribute, the column attribute you want to extract and the prompt live in the Baserow spreadsheet, and it then pulls that in and does the rest to fill in the values. So I can give you an example here. So if I say, hey, I want to add a new field address, I can make this a long text. This is the address applicate, and I create it. What this now does is it kicks off to get the address. Now here it's come back with NA because this test unit doesn't really have an address. So what I can do now, I can edit this field. I put nearest Sydney, if not save it. Now this is also going to, because there's a webhook for the event type field updated, it will run the webhook again, run the template again, workflow, and it will come back with the updated prompt result.
So that where it just says Mithrin City Fiction Land, that is you updated the description. Baserow then saw that, created a webhook event that your workflow picked up. With that new
Yep.
description that's dynamically being piped in, it now knew to go, oh, well, I do know the city. Let me pop that in instead. Is that right?
Exactly right.
This is so freaking cool. My mind is currently blown.
So now you can see how all the power is now on the end user. So the end user can add email type or email or applicants and so on. So this will keep triggering. Now, the best part is that it's unlikely that we will only have one row. If we add in other CVs in here, I added my own, Baserow will send in the file, and then N10 will use the LLM to find the missing values and populate them with the prompts that are in these columns as well.
Very cool. So once again here, it took that PDF, ran it through the dynamic description prompts, and just outputted those three values in that row. Very cool stuff. Jim, would you mind showing us sort of the key moving parts that are powering the solution?
Yeah, my pleasure. So this is the template that we're working with. So the Baserow event comes in and it provides, this is whenever you update a field, updated. So this creates the field that, this is just triggers the field which was updated, which is the address, this data. In this first part, we get the schema from Baserow itself. So we have it at the start to ensure it only runs once, because we kind of only need it once, and here it is. We have the name of the field and then the description, which acts as the prompt.
That switch node is basically routing based on the task type. So if you updated a row, it'll route to the top. If you're updating a field, it routes to the bottom. Gotcha.
Yeah. So the big difference is if you update a row, you only expect that row to be updated. But where you update the column, you want to update all rows under that field. So now we've got valid fields. And what this does is, because we are only interested in the columns with the descriptions, we want to filter out ones that don't have. So this is just a simple code filter, which filters out obviously the name column or the file column, so we don't overwrite it. This is what that does. Next, this is where we get the PDF. So this is where the PDF gets, we extract the data. And this is how, so let's deep dive into the prompt here. So the CV data is within these XML tags file, which is sort of event pulsing to the LLM where it should look for the data to extract from. The data to extract, the description is used here. And so this is where the mini prompt is. And then just a little extra is the output format, which is we're getting the fields type. So if it was a number, it would, the LLM respond with number to input. Otherwise, if it's text, then it kind of can do prose. If we look down in this, you can see here, this is where the description landed, the mini prompt.
And this is for each field. So it's
exactly,
like a per
yes.
field. In this loop, where per field we're saying you have one job, find the email. You have one job, find the, and then we insert that dynamic description. Okay.
What this means is you can have really long mini prompts, mini large prompts, I guess. And it won't sort of like overlap or kind of, there is no prioritization of tokens. It's really focused on that field with that role.
Makes sense. And did you reach any description limits in Baserow itself?
That is a good question. I didn't, but I had 3-4 paragraphs worth last time I checked.
Okay, so there's a sufficient amount in the sort of size allowed. Okay, gotcha. Very cool.
Yeah, I would expect so.
What's happening in the system message here? Is there any sort of specific details that you would call out as useful for this solution?
In this system prompt, because we want to generalize, and the reason we would probably want to generalize is that in this system, it's reusable for any sort of file-based workflow, the same. So if it's here examples or job applications, but you could do invoices or bank statements and use that to compare or extract from bulk these documents. So in this system prompt, I'm being specifically generic in that I'm only asking the LLM to assist the user in extracting the requested data that they have in text in the file. I've asked it to keep it short, but then this is kind of a preference on how kind of, depending on what you're going to use the data for. And I'm giving it, this last bullet point is an escape hatch. So obviously, because we don't want the LM to hallucinate or kind of like to please, I guess, the user, we can allow it to say NA, so not applicable, or couldn't find it.
And we saw that in the previous example when you were running it. But I think what's really cool is that even though that's the default, the description that the user wrote overread that. So the way the system is built out right now, the way it's being processed is the end user in Baserow could still override the NA functionality if they want to, with it at a per field granularity.
Exactly.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. I'd say it makes a very powerful system, very generalized system that we can use and reuse for some multiple. So once I here, we've got the address and the value. And with that address value, we can use it to update Baserow.
Very cool. And then this is just a simple, HTTP request, right, to the Baserow API to update that row, and we know its ID because it's basically in the item coming in. Yep, simple.
Exactly.
Is there any differences with the process running on the bottom for the update field versus the update row? Is it just basically how many times you're doing it, like on one row versus many rows?
Yeah. So this is because this is a field update is sort of a column update, which means that it has to run through every row, available row in the table, but specifically targeting only that field that was updated. This is sort of an optimization. You could update every single column, but depending on how many columns you have, and that could take a long time. So this in the bottom section, it only specifically updates every row for that specific column.
Makes
in the
sense.
top half, because this is a row created or updated, it will sort of go through just a single row and update every column in that row, single row. So going horizontally rather than vertically.
Okay, got you. But I guess the once we get to the actual dynamic field itself, it's a similar thing happening in the
Yes.
AI step. Okay, that makes
Very
sense.
similar. Yeah, very similar. So it's just kind of pulling each column and its description using a prompt and doing it one at a time.
Now, I see that using the Google Gemini models. What models are you using specifically?
So in these models, I am using Gemini 1.5 Pro 02. And this I found to be Google very good at kind of analytical kind of data pulling. Like it's not very creative in it, and it's kind of always very kind of for extracting facts.
Okay.
And being very factual.
Okay, gotcha. Jim, I heard you have another example of this pattern, slightly different use case to kind of show folks how powerful this is. Would you mind showing us that?
So in this example, very similar to the previous template, but it doesn't take in PDFs, but rather just the text. So the grid I'm going to show you now is this one. And this is a sort of content generating example of the same idea. Here we have specifically specified cats. With the cats, we have these columns, which are description, size, diet, nutrition, and temperament. In the fields themselves, we have the prompts. The idea is that it generates contents based on sort of the section. So say it was a blog or sort of a profile, we can use these attributes and these prompts to kind of generate that. So no PDFs involved, no files involved. If I show you here, so if I type in Siamese, same idea with the webhooks. So if I go in here, it posts to my NNN instance and it triggers on row updated, field created, and field updated. Actually, on row created. Why it's not row created? It's fine. Anyway, sorry, I digress. But yes, so this has run with the name, only the name in the background, and it's used the LLM's training data that it already knows about Siamese cats to sort of fill in these columns. I go to the template now. So again, same idea, gets the schema, gets the descriptions, which act as mini prompts, and routes it to have it update the row horizontally or update many rows based on the field is updated. And if I go into the LLM node, the prompt looks like this. So the subject, which was the name of the row, and then the description, which was the column description acting as what is the data to extract. I should actually say generate. And then in the system prompt, just simply rewording or your system using generating the required content from the given subject or of the given subject.
So
yeah,
basically
very
similar.
simple.
You're giving it the escape hatch. I really like that term, by the way. So you're giving it an escape hatch. You're giving it basic role prompting. And then from there, it's working. I guess the nice thing with this is, so this is the basically AI step that's doing the Gen AI, but it's a simple chain, right? But I guess theoretically, there's no reason that at this step, again, the general pattern that you showed, right? But you could swap it with a different AI step. This could be an agentic step with tools to research. Maybe you got a RAG vector store of cats that's proprietary.
Exactly.
Or,
Yes.
or
yeah.
something more useful. I don't know. Maybe there's a lot of business value in cats. And then it could be outputting information that's not just based on the LLM model, right? It could be based on, all your proprietary data, PII information, something. But this is such a cool pattern, Jim. Thank you so much for coming up with it and documenting it.
Yep. Fantastic. Thanks, Max. I think when people are starting out, they're going to go with the very static linear flow, and they're going to quickly run into kind of these issues. And definitely with this pattern, you can be one step ahead and create a lot of dynamic and increase productivity and really empower the people who don't necessarily touch the tools.
Makes a lot of sense. And so I'm guessing this is already super valuable for the clients that you're kind of deploying this pattern for. As you look ahead, any ideas for what you might add or where this might go?
Yeah, like you said, we can definitely swap out these kind of basic LLMs for agentic notes. The tool reaching into, you could have sales spreadsheets where you could pull up product information from the backlog, have it to compare certain performance of different items. But yeah, it's definitely, this is a great pattern to extend. It's kind of up to your imagination how far you take it.
Yeah, so I think the challenge is now in the community. Guys, you saw the pattern. What are you going to apply it to? And I think one really nice side effect of this is I'm seeing a lot of folks talking about how sometimes the best person to write some parts of prompting is the domain expert. So let's say someone is a content writer on cats. Actually, they might write a much better description for what they need for exercise than the developer implementing it for them. But there's this asymmetry where they can't really be in the prompt, or they can maybe sit by the developer when they build that. But then again, you become the bottleneck when they want to change 3 words in the prompt. But this removes that. So I'm guessing your inbox and your Slack is a lot happier as well after implementing such patterns.
Exactly.
Very cool. Jim, this is now your second guest appearance on the show. Every time it's pure gold. So I expect I'll be badgering you soon enough for a return and share some other interesting insights from like building on the ground. That's something I really appreciate about your work, again, because it's ground in client work. It's not this theoretical stuff. It's like you have to solve real business problems or you're not getting your invoices paid, which leads to great ideas for all of us. So thanks so much, Jim. Happy flowgramming as always, and can't wait to chat with you soon.
Thanks, Max.
Yeah, right? Pretty cool. Jim's a super smart guy. Can't wait to have him on the show again and make me look good. Thanks as always, Jim. Let's cross the street without getting run over. That's everything this week. What worked? What didn't? Drop a comment and let me know. Completely unrelated notes. Apparently the YouTube algos love comments with more than 7 words, but again, that's completely unrelated to the requests for comment. I'm Max. This is the studio update. You're awesome. I'll catch you next week, and happy flowgramming.